Namaste. Welcome to yet another episode of Politics 360. And this time it is going to be Focus India. So, before going to the nitty gritties of our show, let me first say Jai Hind and Happy Independence Day to everyone. You know, I don't have to tell you, this is our 75th Independence Day, and our Independence Day is way too special because it is not just one Mahatma Gandhi, one Sardar Vallabhai Patel or Nehru or whomsoever it is. It is everyone, each one of us. Your ancestors and my ancestors were fighting for this freedom, and today we are reaping the benefits of their struggle. And on that note, we also have Mr. JVC Sriram again. In fact, in our own show, he predicted that 1 crore vaccines will be administered each and every day. And more or less that happened. And today, 50 crore of the entire Indian population is vaccinated. So similarly, in the same range, this 54 crore would soon turn into 100 crore, and that 100 crore would be 100% sooner or later. So yeah, now let us get on to the show. Of recently, people have been talking about not the upcoming state elections, but the 2024 general elections already. Some say Sharad Pawar could be the prime ministerial candidate, and some say Mamta Banerjee is going to be the prime ministerial candidate. And as usual, Congress and UPA has its own Mr. Rahul Gandhi. And beyond, on top of all of them, is our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who happens to be the giant who cannot be beaten. One of the senior journalists did say so many people contesting for the post of prime ministership and so many people opposing him in itself a sign that he's the most undisputed leader of all times, like Indira Gandhi, who was once upon a time the same. So, what is this going to be? What is the 2024 Indian general elections going to be? Is it going to be Narendra Modi versus Rahul Gandhi or Narendra Modi versus Mamta Banerjee or Sharad Pawar? And will Prashant Kishore Pandey play a major role in all this? As we've been hearing that he's been consolidating the entire opposition camp. So much happening, and let us discuss one after the other. So, Mr. Sriram, welcome to the show yet again.
Namaste, welcome. Thank you very much. And Jai Hind, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. We are privileged to be entering into the Amrit Mahotsav, or the 75th year of the Indian independence, which is going to be a grand celebration for the next more than 365 days. I think the entire 2022, and starting from today, I think the celebrations have already started.
Wonderful. So, beating all the uncertainties, we have some celebrations going around, and that in itself is making the future more affirmative for us. Yeah. So, my first question, Mr. Sriram. First of all, people have been telling that Narendra Modi is going to be challenged by regional parties such as NCP or TMC, the Sharad Pawar or Mamta Banerjee. And then on one side we have Arvind Kejriwal, and on the other side together we have Mr. Rahul Gandhi. So why is Modi becoming the most undisputed leader of all time?
See, we need to look at it from a chemistry perspective, from numbers perspective, and look at the overall situation. So here is a gentleman who had gone as the candidate, either official or unofficial, whatever you call, and twice he has been defeated. Defeated is not the right word, has been defeated very, very badly. 2019 would have been even worse than 2014, but for Tamil Nadu, which happened to be a kind of an outlier, and courtesy the Sabarimala issue in Kerala, which many experts thought that would go in favor of BJP, but since the party didn't have the kind of missionary and the kind of party it is itself, it went to Congress. Now take away those seats, 10 seats or 9 seats from Tamil Nadu and probably 15 seats from Kerala, that is 24 seats gone, it would have been even worse. Situation would have been even worse. So Punjab is another place where they could do something. So I remember, I used to go to Kenya very often. 15 days of my month I used to be in India, and around 10 days I'll be in Kenya. There is a gentleman called Raila Odinga. Okay. Last time, just before the elections, I was in the place where Raila's fortress, you call, the fortress of people, no? Raila's fortress, like how you can call probably a Chennai or a Delta as that fortress of Stalin or DMK or West Bengal as fortress, so likewise I was there. So a waiter came, and they all belong to the same community and tribe. So I asked him, is Raila going to be the candidate for the next time? He said, sir, Raila has been a buffalo which has not been sold for 3 times in the market. You can't sell it again. Okay. We take that for 2nd time, 3rd time, that's all. That's what they said. Sorry, really, Raila is a very big leader. He's a tall leader. He was a former prime minister. But that was the comment I got. Now, it could be very crude. Rahul Gandhi has been a tried, tested, and trusted failure. Narendra Modi has been a tried, tested, and trusted success. So that says it all. And here is a man who has never lost an election. Since 2002, when he became the chief minister of Gujarat, till today, he has not lost a single election. When I'm talking about not winning or losing an election as an MLA or an MP candidate, heading a party, heading a coalition, in whatever way you call, he has always won. Okay. He has always won simply because of a very, very important thing. Apart from all those things, I would definitely say that one thing is the connect he has with the people. He understands the people's emotions. He understands the people's problems. And he's transparent in terms of having a direct establish and connect with the people. And he doesn't promise which they cannot be fulfilled. Okay. People may immediately jump in, not in your channel, but in many other channels, people will jump in, say 15 lakhs, where is 15 lakhs, where is petrol, diesel price? Well, these are things which have not gone into the manifesto. Okay. These are things which have not gone into the manifesto. Now, when he says that I will open the bank account, when he says I will provide Ujjwala scheme, when he says I will ensure that everybody's home will have water connection, tap connection before 2024, you can consider it done. When he said Article 370, CAA. Now, that kind of a person who delivers what is promised and who knows what he is promising is what we have. I was speaking to a bunch of farmers today because the farmer agriculture budget was coming out. I asked them, is 6,000 rupees having an impact on you? They all said, yes, sir, it's very less. They all said it is very less. Considering the problems that we are having, it's very less. But the point is, at least we are getting it. He has not been promising us 60,000 rupees and get nothing. 6,000 rupees, okay, it is like a glucose. It is like a glucose for us. At some stage, it is working, and for some of the marginal farmers, it is even more better. So the reason why you find Modi as an undisputed leader is because he has been able to deliver on his promises, able to establish, connect with people, and that is the reason. Yeah, you are asking something. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that is about Modi and Rahul Gandhi on a broader perspective. Now, people have been telling that 2024 is going to be the fight between BJP and regional parties, right? So, similarly, on one side, we have Mr. Sharad Pawar, who is consolidating a lot of other regional and smaller fringe parties together. And on the other side, we have Mamata Banerjee, who is stepping out of West Bengal and attempting to make a coalition for herself, projecting her as the prime ministerial candidate. We are not sure if that is really happening, but she meeting so many other leaders in itself says all that, right? So, in that case, if any of these leaders emerge as a prime ministerial candidate against Narendra Modi, what are their chances?
See, let us look at Mr. Sharad Pawar first. Mr. Sharad Pawar is one of the most smart politician this country has ever seen, or this world has ever seen. Why I say this so? Because with a minimal influence, his party has never won more than 10 MPs, if I'm right, maybe maximum of 11 MPs, I don't know. Since the time he started Nationalist Congress Party, you can have a look at it. He has wielded enormous clout. Okay. Now, a party with hardly 8 MPs, 9 MPs, 10 MPs, you can't ask for Union Minister of Agriculture. And he has been a Union Minister of Agriculture for 10 years. He is a kingmaker in Maharashtra. Even today, he has access to the Prime Minister, Home Minister, everybody. But what is Mr. Sharad Pawar's contribution when he steps out of Maharashtra? How many seats can he tilt in favor of an alliance? Okay. So that's a very big question mark. What is his appeal? If he had been in Congress, in fact, which is what I had mentioned in 2019, it's too late now. Okay, you can never say anything is too late, but I had mentioned in my blog, okay, Crowd Wisdom had asked me, now that 303 you predicted, 302 you predicted, 303 has come, what is your prediction for Congress? I said, the only way out for Congress is, I don't know that they told the same thing in your channel also before or not. Sharad Pawar could have become the executive chairman of the Congress party. If he had become the executive chairman of the Congress party, the party adds and he has a clout and it works. So keep him aside. I think I've answered your question as far as Sharad Pawar is concerned. Mamata Banerjee has got 42 seats, but how many seats can she win in Bengal? Number one. Number two, what kind of comment she has made against people in Gujarat? Can she go to Gujarat or in Uttar Pradesh and expect to win anything? In fact, her mere presence itself will be a liability for the opposition. She has made such a kind of comment about Gujaratis, about the people in Uttar Pradesh, because she has played like a regional leader. She has never played like a national leader. She has been a kind of a Bengali Asmita or whatever you call the pride of Bengal kind of stuff. But she's also testing her waters. Her first test would be Tripura elections, where she is going to contest against BJP, but it is too small a state. It contributes, if I'm right, just 2 MPs, if I'm right. Yeah, 2 MPs. So she will test her waters and see. But again, her appeal. What does, she's known as a street fighter. But do you want a street fighter or do you want a performer? And number 3, what kind of a performance she has done in Bengal, which warrants the attention? Today, whether you like it or not, Gujarat model is being spoken about even by the finance minister of Tamil Nadu on Monday when he released the white paper. It clearly showed Gujarat is the only state where there is surplus of 522 crores. And later I came to know it is more than 1,000 crores. Right? Now, that is the situation as far as Gujarat is concerned. So Modi came in selling the Gujarat model. Now, first and foremost, does she have a model? Would Bengal model be accepted? Is a big question. And wouldn't she be a liability to the opposition itself in many states? She will be a no runner in many states like a Telangana or Andhra Pradesh or a Tamil Nadu. She will be neither making any contribution nor be the cause for loss. But in certain states like Uttar Pradesh, where there are 80 seats, BJP would definitely know how to take advantage of the situation of the past comments she has made Gujarat. And what is the machinery they have got? What is the machinery they have got? Now, if by chance, because this is where the problem, okay, fine, I'll come to that a little later because you might ask me that question a little later. So I'll come to it. I don't know your questions. But okay, what I was trying to say is the bane of this opposition has been in 1977, 89. 96 has been that if a 42 MP state, a state which has got 42 MPs, which is Bengal, if a person from Bengal can aspire to be a chief prime minister, then what stops a Mayawati or an Akhilesh who got 80 seats at the disposal? Then what stops a Stalin who's got 39 seats and who swept everything last time? What stops him from becoming the candidate for the chief minister? For that matter, what would stop Jagan Mohan Reddy, who looks to clean sweep Andhra Pradesh? 25 seats. Now, are we going to a situation where, like that of a 1996, where you have 16 MPs and you can still become a prime minister of this country? Now, it is practically possible. So chemistry-wise, you look at it, machinery-wise, you look at it, it is not adding. It is just not adding. That's what is the question. And number-wise also, I'll come to it a little later. But this is where the situation is.
Yeah. So my next question is about BJP for sure. Now of the 29 states plus 7 union territories, if I'm not wrong, 7 or 8 union territories. So BJP is ruling in 17 states, right? So which in itself is a big deal, and BJP is one of the largest political parties in the world in itself, with what 220 million cadre base. So that is what I've been.
I would sorry to interrupt you, Arvind, because that is all a lot of digital and missed call and all those stuff. So we'll not go into it. Okay, yeah. We should not be going into it. The largest party, don't mention into the numbers because we don't know.
Okay, yeah. So similarly, so BJP is the largest party, one of the largest political parties in the world.
Sorry, Arvind, why I interrupted is because many a times in India, the party member himself may not vote for that particular party. Because when he has a loyalty towards a particular candidate, that candidate is not getting the seat and he stands as an independent. This happens in almost every second state. It happens very less in BJP, but it is there across the country. Okay, yes. So that's why I was interrupting. Sorry.
Yeah. So similarly, BJP has been winning in 2014 and 2019, for example. If you look at Gujarat, Rajasthan, New Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and all these states, BJP literally swept. What was considered as a mere impossible strategy, BJP made it possible, right? And 2019, nobody initially they expected that West Bengal, Northeast and Telangana would go to BJP's favor, right? Had Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu and Kerala had given 1 MPs in itself, that in itself is a big deal for BJP, right? But with Shiv Sena moving out, of course, I'm not bringing in Akali Dal because Akali Dal was already a troubled ally for BJP. So they moving out is good for BJP in all ways possible. But with Shiv Sena moving out and they forming an alliance with Congress and NCP based on the current vote share, the current state assembly vote share, 2019 state assembly vote percentage, if we see, that accounts for 45% of the entire vote share, and BJP stands at 23%, even though that is the single largest party, right? So in that matter, of the 303 seats, Maharashtra accounts for nearly 24 to 28, if I'm not wrong, for BJP, right? So Shiv Sena moving out is going to cost BJP, isn't it? And that means BJP would be short of majority.
No, I don't think so. So because see, Maharashtra votes for assembly differently and parliament differently. Point number one. Point number two, in 2014 assembly elections, BJP on a four-way fight won 122 seats. Okay. So it's a very hypothetical situation if the Lok Sabha election in 2023 will be fought by the MVA alliance together. which is Shiv Sena, Congress, and NCP, are they going to fight together is a big question mark in terms of the seat allocation. Number two, the transferability of votes are there, which is another big question mark. And here comes the prime ministerial candidate. So considering all these things, I do not expect BJP to go below 20 at this point in time in Maharashtra. Losses would be kept at the minimal. The strategy would be that in 2019, with the SP-BSP alliance coming, everybody knew, at least when I say everybody knew, analysts knew that there is going to be the loss for BJP in Uttar Pradesh, which could extend, which could be minimum of, it will touch 50 seats, maximum it could go to 62, 63, which is what they got it, which was exactly what I predicted. The backup cover came from West Bengal. The backup cover came from Karnataka and Telangana. Now, I do not expect such a situation where you're going to lose a major chunk of seats. Mumbai will still vote for BJP. Okay. Pune will still vote for BJP. Parts of Vidarbha will vote for BJP. So it's not going to go less than 20. 20 would be the minimum figure which we are looking at out of 48 seats.
Okay, now let us look at the swing states in 2019. Yeah, as I told you, when every other state, there was a media perception of anti-incumbency. One thing was pretty sure, BJP was doing well in Northeast. And that is because people are rewarding BJP for the work they had done. They had built one of the longest bridges and Teesta water agreement, and all of it favored BJP in 2019, and that did account for a major vote share, right? But given BJP's performance in the West Bengal assembly elections, and also Mukul Roy, Babul Supriyo, and various other leaders in BJP, and in fact, if I'm not wrong, at least 300 to 400 cadres from BJP who were earlier in TMC, they left the party and they joined TMC again in a ritual, owing to save their lives, perhaps. So, with that, will BJP's numbers go down in West Bengal this time?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because West Bengal gave 18 seats in 2019, right? And West Bengal, unless otherwise, if Mamta is declared as the prime ministerial candidate, which means that BJP is going to gain a lot in many other states. So what will happen is it will get offset, as I told you, because she has made comments, See, because Mamta is the prime ministerial candidate, means under whom is the Congress going to support her also? If that be the case, Congress will have a very big baggage to carry, because I'm going to come to the numbers a little later. Okay. But they're going to carry a big liability and baggage. Okay. So what would happen is that if that be the case, then there could be a dip in number. But if that is not there, if Mamta is not the candidate, then I don't see anything big happening as far as Bengal is concerned. Even if it goes to the question of, okay, neutral kind of stuff, no candidate, and because I don't think they will go for a no candidate. No image, it'll be it'll also backfire, because if you look at it anyway, they go any path, it would backfire Congress or opposition. If Rahul Gandhi is accepted as the candidate, then it is a different story altogether. If Mamta is accepted by the Congress, then the ship gets rocked in a different manner. Because when you look at it, so because you said it's going to be international, it's going to be national elections, so I've got some numbers for you. Congress and BJP head-on faces 158 seats. It's head-on fight. Okay. Now, there is no third party involved in it. And a direct fight between Congress and BJP in a Lok Sabha election favors BJP. You would agree with me on that. These are states like Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Goa, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh. Even Karnataka I have included because JDS has become a sub-regional party there. Okay. Now next comes the 25 seats of Northeast, where there is a supremacy as far as this thing is concerned, BJP is concerned. So you have almost covered 180 seats. In this 180 seats is one. Then you have 126 seats where Congress does not have any role to play. In 126 seats, they neither have a Halley nor do they have a presence. Sridham, how do you say this? Andhra Pradesh 25 seats, Orissa 21 seats, and Uttar Pradesh 80 seats. They don't have. And in another 190 seats, they are completely relying upon their alliance partners. Places like Bihar, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal. Okay, and you don't even including Jammu and Kashmir. So you're almost talking about, what does these numbers tell you? If Congress or opposition will have to come to the reckoning, the first thing is BJP will have to perform badly in the Indi belt, in the 158 seats. I don't see at this point in time a situation where the BJP is going to do badly in these 158 seats. Added to that is the fact that the three states where Congress does not have any presence, Andhra Pradesh, Orissa, and Uttar Pradesh. If the Uttar Pradesh mandate of 2022 is going to be decisively in favor of Yogi, when I say decisively in favor of Yogi, anywhere between 290 and 300 seats. Well in favor of Yogi, 270 to 290 seats. Victory for Yogi, anything around 250 seats. Anything less than 250, panic button can be pressed, which I don't think is happening. All the opinion polls at this point of time is giving a minimum starting point of 250. And if in UP they're going to hit 290 or 295, then situation will become dramatically different. And then comes the question of, if the UP elections are going to go in favor of BJP heavily, these 190 seats where the Congress is relying upon the alliance partners come into picture. And then I would like to also say Bihar, the alliance is very strong with Nitish Kumar, and BJP is gaining. Let's take the case. I already told you Maharashtra.
Yes.
Maharashtra, even if you lose 28 seats, it doesn't matter. You win 20 seats, that's enough to propel you further. I have a definite feeling that Tamil Nadu is going to be, flip around. Now, what kind of a flip around it is going to be? We have to only wait and watch. Okay.
Okay.
Since both
My
of us
next
belong to
question was on the three states which didn't vote for BJP.
Okay. So Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu.
Tamil
right?
Nadu, yes.
Okay. Now, Tamil Nadu, it is very important that, see what I see in Tamil Nadu, what worries me is that in the social media, the BJP and ADMK supporters are fighting against each other. Okay. And that is not a big thing because, social media is a small media. Okay. Now, the point which both of them need to understand is that, yes, BJP has got a terrific leader in Annamalai. He has got the vision, he has got the energy, he has got the enthusiasm, he has the support of youth. But still, it is a way to go. In the next 2-3 years, BJP has to develop itself as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. 2024, BJP needs ADMK and ADMK needs BJP. ADMK needs to understand that it does not have its own PM candidate. It cannot. It did not. Okay. Now, even Jayalalitha was not in 2014 the candidate, but she got the votes, but saying that, okay, fine, she will take the right decision. Whatever decision she takes, it'll be a right decision, and could be that we could get some plum postings in ministries and all those stuff, as a result of which Tamil Nadu could benefit. And that is the reason why people voted en masse to ADMK, winning 37 seats out of 39 in 2014. Now,
if we didn't have a Modi in 2014, Jayalalitha would have possibly become the Prime Minister.
Could have become the Prime Minister or could have become the kingmaker. She could have become the kingmaker. Okay.
Yes.
Now, if BJP had fallen short by, say, around, instead of 281, if they had got, say, around 230 or 240, which is what everybody was predicting, that BJP cannot cross 225, 230. Nitin Gadkari was coming into picture. All those things were happening. So at that point of time, yes, Jayalalitha could have been the probable ally. Now, as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, we have seen the 100 rule. Today is the 100th day of Stalin. No great shakes have happened. Now, bring in Annamalai into the equation, who's going to go and make the cadres very, very enthused and passionate and identify key seats in Tamil Nadu. I can say for myself that Nilgiris, Coimbatore, Tiruchirappalli, Madurai, Sivaganga, okay, Ramanathapuram, Tirunelveli, I'm not even including Kanyakumari. I'm not including Kanyakumari. Kanyakumari, I would say that let it go to Kanyakumari, let it go to an ADMK. Let ADMK put a Christian candidate. I'm telling right in front of you in your channel itself. They can put a Christian candidate, split the votes, do all kind of. So with an alliance, South Chennai, okay. So Vellore, and Tenkasi, where you can put a Dr. Krishnaswamy as the candidate on the lotus symbol itself. So if they play it very smart, if the BJP and ADMK can play it very smart, and if the anger against Stalin, which is going to only increase, and it will increase more and more because the party machinery and the media is going to keep on projecting that great rule of Stalin, which the people know current is not there. But you said 5 rupees, you reduce it by 3 rupees. Gold loans waiving off is not happening. Education loan waiving off is not happening. Needs, nothing has happened. And you're won not by a you're not won by a landslide. Because those who understand Tamil Nadu politics will know that, to 2021, you didn't win a landslide. It was a big alliance which favored you. So Tamil Nadu is somewhere, where I think if BJP can strategize it right, and what is very encouraging is Mr. Annamalai is very, very proactive in reaching out to the right people. He is not relying just upon the old guard. He wants the fresh guard. He's looking for people. He's talking to people. I know it for sure. That's the reason why I'm confidently telling in your channel. He is reaching out to people. He wants fresh people, with young people with new ideas who can probably rejuvenate the party. So as a result of which, Tamil Nadu is not going to go the 2019 way. Andhra, very, very difficult. Even getting one seat would be very difficult. But you never know. Sunil Deodhar is a master strategist. He's sitting there. But again, Andhra, I would still say that YS Jagan would probably not be interested in dealing with either a Mamata Banerjee or a Rahul Gandhi. Okay. And he has a lot of things up his head. So as a result of which, whatever seats he's going to win is going to be on a kind of a safe bet, safe vault kind of stuff for the BJP. I don't see Chandrababu Naidu staging a comeback. BJP does not have a presence to even win one seat. Let me go on record, and say that BJP cannot even win one seat as of now, as far as Andhra is concerned. Kerala is flattering to deceive. Every time it is flattering to deceive. That is where the problem with Kerala is. And after the 2021 assembly elections results, I have lost my hopes on Kerala. Because it's been quite some time since I've traveled to Kerala, so I don't know the ground reality there. Something is not okay with Kerala BJP unit. Somewhere something is going wrong. What we hear in the media, what we hear in the social media, and what is actually happening on the ground, there seems to be something big gap. I don't think 2024 BJP is going to make a debut in Kerala. That's not going to happen.
Okay, so that's again, it is of the three, Tamil Nadu, they are making inroads, and Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, they are still lagging behind. They have so much to work upon there. Yeah. And let me come to the role of Prashant Kishore Pandey. And of course, one thing is, he is not to be taken up seriously, but at the same time, we cannot ignore him as well. Because he was the one person who said that if BJP crosses the 2-digit mark, I'll leave Twitter. And he kept up to the challenge. It is as if he predicted that BJP is not going to cross the 2-digit mark in West Bengal. Right? So he has been meeting a lot of fringe parties. He has been meeting Rahul Gandhi. He has been meeting Sharad Pawar, Mamata Banerjee. and Mamata Banerjee has retained him till 2026. So much happening, and I won't be surprised if Stalin would want to retain him for till 2026, right? So, in that matter, is there a possibility that Prashant Kishore is trying to bring back the days of 1990s, where a VP Singh, of course, that was in 1989, where a VP Singh won a considerable number of seats and was supported as the prime minister against Rajiv Gandhi. Again, in 1990, where a Chandrasekhar was made a prime minister, and Rajiv Gandhi himself supported him just to keep BJP away from national politics. And then in 1996, I.K. Gujral, Bajpayee, Devagowda, one after the other, right? So, is Prashant Kishore Pandey trying to push national politics back to the days of 80s and 90s? Can we
So
say
we
that?
need to understand, yeah, he might want to, because it's the only formula left. See, the formula left as far as Prashant Kishore is undoubtedly a great strategist. If somebody says otherwise, but he's also been a strategist who has been able to work when there is a mass critical support which is available. He can bring that addition, he can bring that crucial addition, he can create that perception which can produce a big lift. But he cannot be a starter. He cannot be, it's not a self-starter. You understand? No, he cannot start up. He's not a startup guy. He's an established person. He can turn around that company. Or he can give that push. So you need to understand the context of 1989. Because I was a supporter of Janata Dal. I was a supporter of DMK at that point in time. I was looking forward to VP Singh becoming the prime minister in my college days. I was entering into my college. Situation was, Janata Dal, if I'm right, had won around 142 seats. On its own, it had won around 142 seats, if I'm right, if my number is right. BJP had won around 89 seats. The left parties together had won around 50, 55 seats. Congress had won around 196 seats. And the regional parties, in the sense, which supported Janata Dal, had not performed well. When I say Janata Dal itself did not do well in Karnataka, otherwise Ramakrishna Hegde was a contender. TDP did not do well in Andhra. DMK did not do well in Tamil Nadu. In fact, it performed zero. It got zero. So as a result of which a situation came where BJP and left parties had to provide support for VP Singh to become the prime minister. And it lasted for just 11 months. We have seen that. Chandrasekhar was one of the shortest lived government, basically because Rajiv Gandhi wanted a little bit of breather time before he goes for the election. It was too early for him because 88, 89 only election had happened and 1990 it fell. So as a result of which, and he needed to extract this pound of flesh. Like Jayalalitha had an alliance with Rajiv Gandhi and Jayalalitha wanted DMK government to be dismissed and he didn't want to do it. And he wanted it to get it done through the Chandrasekhar government. So he got it done. And the moment it got done, immediately he gave some flimsy reason and ensured that the government falls and election was forced again. So 1996, again, same is the case. BJP was the single largest party. That is when the decline of Congress started. 1996 was the decline of Congress where the BJP was able to go past the Congress for the first time. Okay. So you had these two governments which were, whatever you want to call it, you can call it, which was a dysfunctional government. And then 1998, they voted decisively in favor of NDA and then Jayalalitha did. So even if, see, there are only two options which we are seeing. The worst case option, you would see a 1989 again. Okay, worst case option. How much percentage do I give it? I give a 2% percentage chance.
And even there, Modi would be supported to be the prime minister.
Yeah. And even in the eventuality of somehow or other BJP falling short of 272 seats and opposition forming a government. These are all very hypothetical, which will not happen. But I'm in the wildest of my dreams. I'm saying it. Even if some or other Prashant Kishore is able to cobble up a government, it won't last for a few months. And you will see BJP winning 350 seats on its own if an election is conducted immediately after such a disaster. So people today are very smart. They don't want to be facing an election again and again and again. And they'll always see, you always have a backup plans of a Jagan, of a Biju Patnaik, it's for your Naveen Patnaiks, even your KCRs. Okay. So you have all those backups ready in the eventuality, but I don't think we will even come to it. I'm still, because let me not share my numbers now. Let's move on and then let's see.
Okay. And now coming to the case of Aam Aadmi Party, of course, apart from Punjab and New Delhi, they don't have presence anywhere else. But still, you think this time Aam Aadmi Party would be able to make an impact in Punjab and New Delhi alone? Because even if they are going to, what to say, even if they are going to give a tough fight for BJP in New Delhi and Punjab, so even if they touch the double digit mark, it would be seen as Aam Aadmi Party is going to be the future contender for BJP. Will
What
that
do you
happen?
mean? What do you mean, Arvind? Here is a party which comfortably is winning 300 plus seats, 280 seats, and you're talking about a party which is even unable to open its account in a state which is its ruling and which is not even getting into double digit, and you're saying it is a strong contender for BJP,
No,
is
I
a
mean,
ridiculous
not in
thing.
the near future,
Sorry,
not in the
it's
near
a,
future, at least 10 years down the line. If at all people feel that Rahul Gandhi is not going to be the prime ministerial candidate anymore for the opposition, will that take up? I mean, will there a scenario wherein Aam Aadmi Party will become the thing for you?
see, having seen Aam Aadmi Party for 6.5 years now in governance, the party has made no efforts to build its base in any of the other states. Mind you, in 2014 in Tamil Nadu, they got decent number of votes. In Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, they got decent number of votes. Now they don't even have a party missionary here. So you need to have, see, at the end of the day, why is BJP struggling in Kerala? Why is BJP struggling in Andhra Pradesh? Why is Annamalai seen as a hope? Because you have a local leader who is acceptable, and you don't have a local leader. Now, Aam Aadmi Party has not been able to develop its leadership. Even Indira Gandhi needed local leaders. Indira Gandhi needed local leaders. She needed a YB Chavan, then an SB Chavan. She needed a Bangarappa, a Gundu Rao. She needed a Chenna Reddy. She needed a Janardhan Reddy. She needed a Mupanar. She needed a Karunakaran, Antony, Madhav Rao Sindhya, okay, Madhav Singh Solanki. You can name it. I can keep naming Narayan Dutt Tibari. She needed Ganikant Chaudhary, SS Ray in West Bengal. Yeah. So and BJP today has that. You name it in Andhra Telangana, they have a Bandi Sanjay as a president. They have a strong guy in Kishan Reddy, who's the union minister. They have a Devendra Fadnavis, Nitin Gadkari, Vijay Rupani, Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Yogi is himself a big leader. Even in Delhi, the problem with BJP was who's the leader? I will vote for Modi in the center, but who's my face for Delhi? See, India today may be having a Westminster model, but we follow presidential system while voting. Okay. So even Mamata Banerjee won not because of Trinamool Congress. She won because of her. West Bengalis, in fact, I still remember when I had a conversation with Pradeep of Jan Ki Baat, with whom I was associated for the Tamil Nadu election. When I spoke to him when I met him in the month of March, and we're coming from the airport to a place where we were doing a program. So he was telling me, Sriram, the thing is, people are extremely angry with Trinamool Congress, but people are still not angry with Didi. And that's what is still keeping the game on. Okay, and that's why the game got finished on that favor. So you need to understand that. Okay. So you needed a Nitish. That's why Nitish is still the chief minister in Bihar. You have a credible face. Now, for Aam Aadmi Party to develop itself, it needs to groom young leaders, regional leaders, give them independence, have a party structure. And if you've not done in 7 years, what gives me the confidence that they will do in the next 70 years? Isn't it? And they had a net start. 2014, there were people who were willing to join the party. Now they found another political party with another agenda, another leader with another same thing. So nobody cares. And yeah, to answer your complete question, completed Delhi, I don't think they can even win. Even one seat, they will not be able to win even in 2024. Punjab, they will win because they've been winning. We'll have to see what is the performance of AAP in Punjab assembly elections. Okay. That would be a big barometer.
Okay. And there is one leader in BJP, of course, he has not been a very significant leader as such. Under his leadership, BJP, in fact, reduced his numbers in 2009. And I'm talking about Mr. Nitin Gadkari. And yes, there is no denying the fact that he is the best performing minister in the union cabinet. And even people who support NCP Congress in Maharashtra, I've seen personally, they say, see, I don't like Modi, but Nitin Gadkari is the best performing cabinet minister. In fact, they would they would contradict their own statement saying that the Modi cabinet is not working, but only Nitin Gadkari is working. So that in itself is a big contradiction. So that is the kind of support which he has, Nitin Gadkari has. And also in 2019, Sonia Gandhi vouched for Nitin Gadkari openly in the parliament. Yeah. And also now recently, Mamta Banerjee has been visiting Nitin Gadkari, which in itself is a big surprise because, Mamta Banerjee meeting other opposition leaders, there's no big surprise. But she meeting Nitin Gadkari is a surprise because do we take it as Nitin Gadkari is being vouched by the opposition for some other reason?
Can be. You can't rule out any kind of conspiracy theory in politics, but I don't see it happening. Okay, I would see, because see, Nitin Gadkari, every party has got certain leaders who would have very good equations with the opposition. Arun Jaitley had one of the best equations with the opposition. Before that, Pramod Maharaj, even Mr. Venkaiah Naidu, who is the vice president of the country now, had excellent, because you need to have, if you want to, Ghulam Nabi Azad had an excellent access to BJP. Okay. So you would always have that kind of leaders in every party who would have access with the opposition, who in their enthusiasm sometimes and in their hatred towards the main leader, they will start, making certain comments. But you should not read too much into it. That's all you can read about it. And Nitin Gadkari is one such leader, and he has also got a lot of interest in various things.
Okay, so fine. So, in a nutshell, what is going to be 2024? And of course, it is like too early for us to call, but still, given the scenario now, what is going to be 2024?
See, if the vaccination process is going at the pace at which it is going right now, if the third wave, because a lot of ifs have to be done. Okay, I know you will. So I can straight away give an answer, but I'm saying, these are things which need to be done, looked at. At the moment, first straight answer is Modi is coming back in 2024. There is no doubt about that. The extent of victory, the margin of victory, the comfort with which the government can be formed, we are coming into those things now. Okay. Now, if the vaccination goes at the pace at which it is going, a third wave, which is imminent, I don't think we'll escape out of the third wave. But if we can get out of the third wave without major calamities, and if by the middle of 2022, okay, at this point in time, 2022, if life comes back to normal, which allows the economy to bounce back, right? Winning the UP elections and Gujarat election thereafter. I'm not bothered about Karnataka election. I'm not bothered about Madhya Pradesh and other elections. These are the two crucial elections which should happen in 2022. You're looking at a figure of around 320 for BJP.
Okay. So that is going to be a steady increase from 303 to 324. And where do you think that extra 21 seats are coming from?
So to me, you'd be surprised if the economy picks up. Maharashtra can actually be a game changer. The 20 I talked about, because BJP had to share half of the seats with
Shiv
Sena. And even in Bihar, I think the number of seats the BJP will be contesting will be a little more than what they contested last time. I expect them to pick up seats in Tamil Nadu, for sure. Not only BJP, but also the AIADMK. Okay, the NDA tally will also go up, but I'm talking about only BJP. And if the Telangana is another place where I expect, even Telangana, I do not think at this point in time, I don't think Telangana BJP will be forming the government in 2023. Situation is not, I'm living in Telangana and I've got a lot of BJP supporters, surrounding me. And when they see this, they'll get annoyed with me. And a few BJP leaders, also good friends of mine, they'll get annoyed. But I don't think BJP is forming the government in 2023. But BJP is going to perform better in 2024 Telangana elections compared to what it performed in 2019. You need to keep in mind that the 2019 election at UP was fought between SP, BSP, Mahagathbandhan. In the absence of a Mahagathbandhan, we go back to, and Ajit Singh is not there. Okay. In the absence of all this situation, and even if by chance, there is a Mamta, Rahul Gandhi, all these people come together, you probably could expect a go back to 2014 figure at Uttar Pradesh. So if you add all these things, you will know that where you're getting the exact numbers which I'm talking about.
Okay, so there is no stopping for BJP, and opposition is getting a devastating defeat for yet another time, and no other equations are working, and all are becoming fringe parties slowly.
Sorry, Arvind, I want to just conclude it because they're picking up non-issues. Pegasus is a non-issue for a common man. Okay, they're trying to do protest politics, Andolan politics. Andolan GB rightly said. You picked up CAA, you pick up farm protest. Ask yourself, but for the state of Punjab and up to an extent Haryana, the farm protest is nothing. Mamta didn't raise it, Stalin didn't raise it. In Telangana, it is a no seller. In Maharashtra, so you're picking up things which are, and unfortunately, petrol diesel. Maharashtra also, you're selling petrol diesel. Rajasthan also, you have got a government which is led by the Congress, and you have so many other non-BJP government everywhere. So what issue to pick up? COVID, vaccinations, 55 crores. You're seeing it for yourself. So what is the issue? You have to manufacture. So when you manufacture an issue, it will not strike chord with people, like what happened in Rafale. Okay. And then you have to go on a personal attack. And where Modi thrives? When you attack him personally.
That's all. And yeah, so that becomes, I mean, that makes Narendra Modi as for yet another time the most undisputed leader of all time, right? And but Sriram, one thing I'm wondering, we have all this with Modi. If there is no Narendra Modi, what is going to be BJP's future?
See, BJP is a party which has been, as you rightly said in the initial stage itself, the greatest thing which Mr. Narendra Modi and Amit Shah has done is to the party is they have made the party really robust. They made the party competitive. They've been able to pluck leaders from nowhere, make them big, and showcase it. And that's what you're seeing in Annamalai. Annamalai was not in politics even a year back. Okay, and now you're seeing him the darling of many people. And I'm not
Yes.
saying he's the darling of Tamil Nadu, darling of many people. So you have always, this country always asked who after Nehru, who after Indira Gandhi, who after Rajiv Gandhi, who after, Vajpayee. Okay. And then after a long time, we're asking who after Modi. But still, he has time. He has another 7 years, 6-7 years to go. He has an election to win, general election to win. And he has the energy, the enthusiasm, hardworking, and God willing, I think he will go on for another 5-6 years.
Okay, so maybe after 2029, we have to think who after Modi.
I think, in the middle of the second, third term, he may just find a successor for himself.
So that's quite interesting, even though it is too early, but it is quite interesting to discuss all this in the current time. So let us see what happens. And we have more coming up for the assembly elections. Uttar Pradesh, we have the elections coming up soon, and so is Punjab and several other states in India. And more than that, as we said, we have the Indian presidential election. In our next debate, possibly, we'll discuss about who's going to be India's next president.
Yeah. But I want to tell you one thing, bookmark this video, store it. By chance, by May 2024, if the BJP gets 320, you can say as early as 2021 in our show, we should have predicted this.
Yeah, and that would make us the most, what to say? I mean, we predicted much earlier than anyone else, than any psychologist could ever do. Sure. Thank you, Sriram. So we are
Thank
looking
you.
for more.
Thank you. Wishing you all a very happy Independence Day and stay safe. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.